Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. It is the 16th, right? No, it's the 17th. I'm so silly. It's the 17th of June. It is, what, a Wednesday? And, well, we got a few pieces of news like housing starts, core inflation rate, Canadian, but nothing too major today. But yesterday was a real bender. So I'm expecting that some of this volatility is going to continue through to today. So I'm going to be a little bit risk adverse. This is just this kind of environment just really will destroy your account. So let's go back and look at what happened. Come over here to the chart. Here's the E-mini. You can see here this wild thing. So remember that yesterday overnight there was some news that the Trump administration was looking to do an infrastructure stimulus, and that pushed markets up. And then we got the retail sales data, which was really quite good. And I thought that a run to 3180 or so, 90 was actually very much in the cards. I'm still looking for this point of control up here at 3194 to get touched, but we do have one down below us as well. But before that happened, news came in that the Chinese authorities in Beijing are increasing their emergency response level from level 2 to level 3. So there's concerns that Beijing might get shut down. And that really sent the market into a tailspin. But you can see here that they recovered pretty well, and now overnight they're pretty close to where we were. I still see this 3160 to 3200 area as possible, but the market's going to be really, really jumpy. And when we come over here into the treasuries did come down 2 days ago, and they still remain within that range. Oil's just been all over the place this week. Lots of OPEC stuff going on. They have supply today, so that should be interesting. And you're just looking at the dollar. We're kind of off the lows from the dollar, and we're back up into the 97 range, 97.02. So overall, I think so I'm not sure why the euro was kind of a little bit weaker this morning. That's something that maybe we should keep an eye on. But overall, it looks like things are in an okay position to try and make a move up. But we'll see. CHF is the strongest and euro is the weakest as North American traders enter for the day. Why, thank you, Forex Live, for the shout out. Let's turn on the text speech. What's Anthony going on about here? Replying to, but yes, this is Anthony Crudelli team. No, it isn't. Only one person can have my hair, and that's me. Please block and report this imposter. Okay. He does have nice hair. Peter Davies. Dinosaurs and market bubbles for day traders. Oh, I love it. Sounds like a good title. We'll read that. Yeah, they are. Marketeer is pointing out that the Robin Hooders are really good at picking lows in the S&P and trading with the trend, because we can see where the big guys are doing it. Cool. tweeted out about my list that I used to follow news, and I got a lot of follows off of that. So pretty happy about that. Let's make sure text to speech is working. There you go. Well, I have a little bit of this croissant left, so I'm going to eat that here. We got news in 30 seconds. We'll see if the housing starts data does anything. Okay, so there's an iceberg at 130 setting up a potential level break. Okay, so they hit that iceberg. I say it's a level break. I don't know if that's really what was going on there, but anytime that I see we're near a low and I start to see an iceberg holding it. But the thing is, when you're in rangy action, um, those often fail more often than not. I would say. Actually, when I tested it, it was 50-50. So in this situation, you don't want to take it. But it's interesting to me that they were not only able to take up, but a whole step there, right? So we got that going on. E-mini is it's in an interesting spot. Let's see. It's actually that the E-mini has actually been going sideways for quite some time, based on average true range. I'm reading this article from Jigsaw. What are they talking about? I think that they're warning against a retail trader bloodbath.
I2 Yanth Great says hello. General plans for today?
Oops,
I2 Yanth Great says
gonna read
hello.
it twice.
General plans for today?
Well, I am thinking bullish, but we have to get a good buy location. And right now, the markets actually look a little risk off. So I don't see any of this pre-market news moving us. So I'm thinking it might be quiet for the next 20 minutes or so. We'll see. That can, if it's going to be quiet, that can always be the perfect time to buy something. Keep an eye on it. And that you can see the treasury's up a good 3 ticks. They could go up a little bit more. 15 was the 15 half was the last pivot, so so have we got to the taxi cab test yet? Well, Facebook has no shortage of people patting themselves on the back for how well they are trading. I saw one video recently where a guy made $2,500 in a day, which was 8% of his account, and where the account also had around $2,500 in unrealized losses. So, yes, I think we have reached the ground zero in terms of the mass of people that should clearly take their losses, especially those unrealized trades that must turn around because what goes down must pop up. That's so dumb. You know what? I see that sort of stuff on Facebook too. Did he say it was on Facebook that he saw? Oh yeah. The Facebook is the worst. I cannot stand reading those groups anymore because people are just posting like
J Constant
dumb
says hello.
stuff.
Socks and BTC looks so bullish. The only way looks up.
Oh, always everybody always
J
thinks
Constant
Bitcoin
says
looks
stocks.
bullish, huh? I don't know. I mean, they did recover from that 9,000 level in Bitcoin, but I still feel that the pressure is on the downside in Bitcoin. Just you're still in a situation where who's gonna buy it? Like I don't know. Stocks do look very bullish, even here with us coming down. And in fact, there's been a lot of downside action overnight, and they're actually still higher. So this one is a little tricky because if you just looking at the short moves, you'd think that things are pretty bad, but they're buying the dip. They're passively pushing it up, probably. I wonder, can I see here in the volume profile overnight? It's probably not too clear because we don't have enough volume. Yeah, it's not really enough of volume to tell.
J Constant says BTC looks correlated to the stock market.
No. Why, if it's correlated to the stock market, then why did they dump from 10,000 to 9,000 the other day? That was Well, that I guess what day was that? That was the 14th. I mean, that was over the weekend after the E-mini already had puked. Oh, here they're talking about the guy that was claiming
J
he's better
Constant
than
says I
Warren
am in
Buffett.
Tether by the way waiting for a drop, but that doesn't seem to happen.
Every
Every
dip
dip gets
gets
bought up
bottom.
very fast.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the thing that's difficult on the Bitcoin side is that there's not a lot of upside, but they're not really aggressively pushing it down. I kind of wonder if it's just going to go sideways here for a good quarter or two before they've maybe finally caught up with value. Because I don't know over time, the coins will become worth more. Um, but that takes time. That takes a long time, especially when the amount coming in is, I don't know, the amount that you don't get in new Bitcoins each day is pretty small compared to all of the Bitcoins that have ever been out there, right? It takes a long time for that to really matter. So maybe we just go sideways because we're not getting the activity on the blockchain. All that is going into Ethereum. Interestingly enough. I think that the Bitcoin project has some serious
Ace Trades
fundamental
says just
problems right
checking
now.
in. Morning.
Hey Ace, how are you? You're early. Well, I don't see much opportunity at the moment. I'm kind of expecting it to be a wild day like yesterday though. I mean, I think I'm preferring longs here, but they could certainly wouldn't take much to change my mind on that,
Ace Trades says agreed. Sitting on hands.
Yeah. It's probably too early. You get like with the housing starts and stuff that usually isn't significant market moving moves. What was it again? I missed. Housing starts less than expected at 0.97 million versus all expected 1.095 million.
Ace Trades says I mean, if you wanted to get in short at 3,131.25, but too rich for me. Ace Trades says short.
You would take it short there, huh? I'm
I2
thinking.
Yanth Great says I think, Plan B, statistical model shows 2028 Bitcoin inflation less than gold or something.
So I see a potential long at 31.32 and a quarter. So it's kind of like right there, but they're not jumping over it. But the mini
J
has a
Constant
lot
says
of.
I am trading BTC for a year now and still almost always wrong. I am thinking about cashing out.
Really? Well, I don't think that if you want to day trade, I don't think that Bitcoin is a very good place to day trade.
Ace Trades says Bitcoin is a joke bro at J Constant.
Like honestly, especially compared to the alternatives, like why wouldn't you just always buy the dip in equities? Right. Like this is the other problem. I think you know what? I wonder if that's actually a bigger problem than the other stuff. Like not only are there some fundamental issues going on in the Bitcoin issue with the way that the Bitcoin Cash thing all went down and what is it? Liquid and all that stuff not really working out. But then Bitcoin very much relied on the I want to bet crowd. these retail traders, and they're all trading spies, you know?
I2 Yanth Great says yes, day trading in Bitcoin isn't as profitable as stocks anymore.
Right. They need the Barstool guy to move over to becoming a cryptocurrency trader. Then they'll if that guy comes over and trades and starts trading 10-year note futures, then I'm done.
Jay
I'm
Constant
done.
says I was on the point to buy stocks but didn't expect everything to recover this fast.
Me too.
Jay Constant says so I am too late now.
Well, so something that continues to catch me off guard was when we were at the lows in the stock market and we had those really big up days, you know, that were like X%, 5% in a day and stuff like that. I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, like, I thought that we were oversold at the bottom. I really thought that we were oversold at the bottom. And my opinion was that the stock market is just throwing a fit because they want the stimulus checks, right? Okay, so they got the stimulus checks and then they all bought back in. And so I thought, okay, these big 5% moves, that's cool. But now that we're up here and we're almost to historically high valuations. Well, we are at historically high valuations and we're almost to historical highs in the index. We continue to see really big up and down days. And days like yesterday are days that I always look out for. When we're in a downturn and I start getting days like that where one day it's down really big and the next day it's up really big and then the next day it's kind of like it goes down and up one day and you just incredibly wild volatility. That is usually the bottom. That is usually, well, I mean, in this ever since the QE era, that has been the bottom. As soon as things start to get a little crazy and maybe they'll take a little jump over the edge of the cliff and then it will magically recover. But now we're getting that kind of behavior at highs. And I'm like, so does it work the other way? We're up, but now we're getting all this wild action. That means that we're going to that's the high and we're going to turn back down. But I don't know that because it's never happened before. And I don't know what to make of it. But I find it incredibly weird. Was
I2 Yanth Great says lot of traders are in indecision mode right now.
you think that that's it? I actually, so here's what I think it is there is an incredibly, what do we call this? There's an incredibly strong amount of gamma bets out there. So basically what's been happening is that the amount that prices move for options compared to the price of the underlying, they're making bets on that changing. So essentially, it's kind of a bet on volatility increasing or
Jay
decreasing.
Constant says stocks are still undervalued according to the Brock value.
So you've got this situation where we've got a quad witching come up, and all of these people have been playing on the gamma. And so where the indexes close on Friday is a very, very significant number for some large traders. And you can see it every day at the close. Every day at the close, they care so much about where it's going to close. Let me tell you something, guys. Where stocks close, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Any indicator that is based primarily on the close of something like a daily close, probably not as useful as you think it is. Closing prices are not reliable because they are so manipulated. Of course, everything is manipulated in some form or another, but closing prices in particular, people mess around with them. You can even see it on like 1 minute charts where like if there's going to be a pivot or not, there are people fighting and trading and trying to move it to create the pivot or stop the pivot from happening, right? So they're doing that every day now because they're trying to push the market into a certain area for the expiration close. And so you get this market that is like whippy all over the place, right? We had a pretty good downturn, and I was in, when we had that sell day, you sit back and you think, oh, well, that could be it. Maybe that's the end of it and we need to go down or sideways for a while, right? Well, my theory is that you can't really have a meaningful bear market until those options expire. When the options expire, then they're going to take a look at the next month and the next quarter and they're going to say, I'm not so sure that we have any reason to be up more than 3,400 or something like that. And then maybe we'll get this situation where we could go down. You know what I mean?
J. Constant says, so the Fed buys stocks at low prices from printed dollars? I am feeling a lot of conspiracies right now.
Yeah, hold on. I was talking with bots. He's going on vacation. He was letting me know, which I appreciate because I tell you what, if anything has been a constant here in my trading, it has been talking with bots. Good friend. Anyways, well, the Fed's not going to buy stocks at low prices, but what they're doing with corporate bonds is really sketch. So do you get what they're doing with the bonds? Or let me explain what they did with the bonds and why it's actually a little upsetting, quite frankly. Okay. So we all know that the Federal Reserve is buying bonds. And when they did the program, they said the program that was authorized by Congress allows
J.
them.
Constant says, yes, please.
It allows them to buy ETFs and it allows them to buy corporate bonds, right? And this was a program that was authorized by Congress. I think these people saying that the Federal Reserve has like exceeded its mandate, that's a little not quite sure that that's entirely accurate. But I digress. They buy bonds and ETFs. Well, here's the problem. There is stuff in the law that says you can't buy a bond. In order to buy a bond, it has to meet these qualifications, right? So one of the qualifications is that, like, it's a U.S. company. Like the Congress didn't want companies that are really largely running over in China to get money. Well, there's an issue with that because there's a lot of companies, like say Apple. Say the company is Apple. Apple has a lot of their employees in China, right? So they're building stuff over there. So are the majority of Apple employees in the United States? I'm not sure. It might be close, but it's not like 90% or something like that. So there's a lot of companies, and I don't know if Apple fits that bill, but there's a lot of large companies that wouldn't fit the qualifications. So what the Federal Reserve did was they created a loophole. So since you're allowed to buy indexes of bonds, they created their own index. They created their own index of the corporate bonds that they want to invest in, and then they buy that index instead. Not what was intended by the law. Obviously, there are some companies out there that the Federal Reserve is really concerned about that they had to do this for.
I2Yanth Great says, wow.
Right? So that announcement on, what was it, Monday or whatever, when we really started spiking up, that's what happened. Everybody thought, I think a lot of retail
Eric Hughes
traders.
says, why do you only look at the 1 minute?
Oh yeah, so let's pivot over to that. Eric, what you see on my screen is maybe a little bit deceptive to you. So I have over there, I have actually what you're seeing, even though I know it says 1 minute right there, this is actually a chart with like 5 time frames on it. So this is actually one range moves. And then I have 1 minute bars that are just for the moving averages. And then if you can see kind of in the background, you see this red and blue. Those are actually 5 minute bars. And then when you come over here to my other screen that I don't show you guys very often, so this is the main chart that I look at. And remember, I don't use technical analysis for setups. I'm going to be taking my entries and exits based off of fundamentals and volume and stuff. So I'm really using the technical analysis for risk management, right? Like this will tell me, okay, if I want to buy, am I actually getting a good price, right? Is momentum, am I getting a good spot? It's timing and price really is what I'm using technical analysis for. But this one is a 1 minute chart. And this one over here, next to it, in the middle,
Eric Hughes says, I see.
is actually an everything
says,
chart.
I think the dollar will crash other currencies like this pretty soon. This looks like planned. This is just trade war.
Okay, keep that thought for a second, Jay Constant. This chart right here, this thing at the bottom, tells me whether we're positive or negative on the hour, day,
Ace Trade
week, and
says
month.
called it short.
Yeah, that was a pretty good move there. When was I? It was 33 when I was looking at it. They never actually turned up on it, did they? Oh no, it was somewhere around here, 33, 31.75. And they never really meaningfully held it, and now they're dumping. That's interesting. They're coming back to the VWAP here though, so we should be careful. Anyways, so this chart right here is like all the time frames. And I usually have it pulled back so I can see like the previous day. And then I also have these charts that I'll pull up from time to time because my strategy is right now
Eric
is
Hughes
much
says,
more.
I watched your 1 up video from a while ago. I just finished the combine. I am waiting to get funded. Any tips?
So my tip, if I was a funded trader, is once you get funded, I would clamp down on the risk. So what happens with top step traders that I've seen, and I know a lot of people that have passed it and have gotten funded. And I know people that have gotten funded, especially oil traders. I tell you what, it's always the oil traders, man. I don't know what you're trading, but usually when you get funded, it's oil because oil is the only one that like moves and has enough leverage to really make that profit target in a reasonable amount of time. So what ends up happening is a lot of the funded traders are actually taking on way more risk than they maybe realize. And so what you do is you're sorry, let me restart. So what happens is if they'll get funded and because they're in a good market, and then when the market changes, they'll blow out and they'll lose the account. I've seen that happen. Like I said, I know one person in particular that has been funded and then kicked off and refunded 5 times. So my recommendation is that once you get funded, clamp it down on the risk. You're probably taking on more risk than you realize. And so the most important thing is to keep the account. And so once you're funded and you've reached their profit targets and you're no longer under an obligation to hit a certain number, I would trade smaller. I would like straight up trade smaller. Because like I said, it's extremely common for people to get funded from Top Step and then lose it. I wonder how many Like they talk about how many funded traders they have and everything, but I wonder how many
Eric
of those
Hughes says
guys have
makes
been funded
sense.
for like
Thanks.
how many of those guys have been funded for like over a year or like over 5 years. It's really hard because it's actually not that hard to have a time period of like 3 months where you do well, you know?
Jeff says these comments keep interrupting your focus and train of thoughts. So you were saying about how you trade?
Um, sorry, I'm really ADHD and I like to go with the flow. Oh, you wanted to catch. Okay, so yes, that's important. What I do when I trade is I'm thinking much more, instead of thinking, where is it going to, what is the next turn and what is the direction in the momentum? I'm thinking much more, where is it going to go to? So I have a specific price that I'm thinking that I'm going to reach. And then I base everything else off of that. So these volume profiles are really useful because these point of controls and, VWAP and things like that are all extremely good, reliable targets that you can use. And when you have the target, when the trade is based on the target to begin with, then all of the other things kind of take care of themselves, right? Because then you can sit down and you can say, okay, well, that's like 10 points away. So if that's 10 points away,
Sunday Driver says, do you select the colors on your chart?
yeah, I've modified the colors on everything.
Jeff says thanks.
Yeah, I like orange and blue because that's the best colors for colorblind. I don't have too hard of a time with green and red, but I know that other people do. So I use blue and orange because that's the easiest for people to differentiate, especially on a video when they're looking at a small screen. Okay, so we were going back to, I think the dollar will crash. Other currencies like this pretty soon. This looks planned. Okay, so the thing I was thinking about with that, you guys keep asking questions.
Sunday Driver says, I was going to say, I am colorblind but can see your charts.
I call my color scheme Bronco, orange and blue. So let's come over here and look at the dollar on a much larger time frame. Okay, so it's going to move me over to day. Okay, so right now we're at 96, and we're kind of flirting with a pivot down here at 94. That was troublesome. Okay, but let's pull back. Okay, 88 was where we were at the end of 2018. Okay, 2014 we were at 80. Oh, we can go better than that. Okay. 2008, at the depths of the 2008 crisis. Sorry, before the 2008 crisis, the dollar index was at 73, and at the height of the most panic ever, it was at 88. Yeah. Maybe let's do it on month. Let's do it by month. Let's see. That's good. Now it show us the dollar index. The dollar index actually was much higher back in the 80s, right? Okay, where was it when it was low? I guess 74 was low. Okay. So that kind of puts a little bit of perspective on it, doesn't it? The dollar is super high right now. It is so much so they need to the government is actively trying to push the dollar down, in my opinion. It seems like their policy right now is intended to push the dollar down. It's too high and it's a problem for them. So that's what I was going to say about the dollar. And I think we covered everything. I think that was all of that. So you can make more comments. I put the stonks in the jacket and the jacket on the kangaroo, and now he's hopping away. Oh, I haven't been paying attention here to Twitter. Let's see if there's been anything important. No, not too much. Should scroll back on our trader guys and see how far back they said anything last night. that I missed. Mr. Patrick Rooney quoting scripture. Yeah, can I tell you, because there's just so many guys in the trading world. And I don't know how well they know me or not, but I'm actually friends with Patrick Rooney on Facebook now, and I really like that guy. like just the stuff that he posts and everything. That's a guy that is serious and has a good attitude about things, and I really like him. Now back to that John Grady quote. So there was another interesting thing that happened yesterday was John Grady tweeted that the PE ratios were too high. And somebody in chat was like, "Yeah, well, he's a scalper. Why does he care about PE ratio?" So I was like, I mean, you kind of have a point, but we're in a really weird situation, right? I think we're in a situation that is really deceptive and is likely to screw people up, especially the experienced traders, because what you're seeing right now is like, come on, this is crazy. Some of the stuff that is happening is ridiculous. Warren Buffett is like not in this market. He is basically sitting things out, and we have this guy on bars from Barstool Sports or whatever who is day trading, and he's claiming that he is the best trader ever, right? And that he's better than Warren Buffett.
I2Yanth Great says, do you think we will get another stimulus with another check to all Americans?
I don't. I think that Congress is extremely unlikely in the current environment to pass another stimulus. The markets are already really high, and how are you going to justify the Republican hawks, fiscal hawks, will put a stop to it. I don't think that it can get through. And the Democrats are going to vote no in the Senate, right? So if you're even losing one or two Republicans, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So you'd have to have a scary market to convince them to do it. Anyways, what we have going on right now is really crazy. And so for those long-term people, this is like, okay, this is like what it was like in 2000. This is what it was like, every other recession that I've ever seen. But here's the thing. There is a generational thing that's going on that you have to consider too. Millennials have not invested in the markets, have not been involved in business. They have very much, I think, because of some politics and because of their experience in 2008 and all of these things, they were underinvested. And that doesn't just mean that they're not putting money into their 401k. It also means that they weren't really reading financial news. They weren't really learning about companies and these sorts of things like past generations did. And now they are. And so because now that they are, and because of the internet and commission-free trading and things like that, you're seeing a generational shift into people paying attention to the markets, which is good. But it also means that you have an very extreme distortion that can last for a very long time.
Entered the stock market after last crash.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's when I entered the markets, was after the last crash. I wasn't trading futures back then, but that's when I started looking at markets and thinking, oh, I want to trade, right? So I think that you got this situation where this retail trader explosion, even if things fall apart here, even if, let's say that we've already hit the high of the summer and we're going to continue to move down.
Jay Constant says, I meant the COVID crash.
Oh, sure. Okay. I got in after the 2008 thing. A lot of people, they came in after the COVID crash. Sure. And a lot of people, they didn't start paying attention to the market until the COVID crash. And it was actually starting before that too. Okay. Back when we were at the all-time highs, there was a lot of people coming in, and part of that was that they were reading these stories about these guys that were, finding hacks in Robinhood's system that allowed them infinite leverage from Robinhood. The guy that blew his account, that sort of stuff. Yeah, it was already kind of picking up steam, And then the COVID thing just like sent it over the edge into mainstream's consciousness. So the distortion caused by millennials coming into the market is not something that just goes away in a week or a day or a month or a year. This is something that will probably continue for the next 5 to 10 years. That doesn't mean that the markets are going to go up forever, but you get what I mean? I think that some of the this is a market top sort of sentiment could be deceptive.
J Constant says 100% sure BTC will go up now, just because I am in Tether.
Just because you're in Tether. I mean, the more ironic thing would be that Tether finally collapses, right? While you're in it. That would be the... I'm just kidding. That won't happen. That very
Sunday
unlikely.
Driver says, consider this to be my daily required post about the US dollar losing reserve status, gold skyrocketing, and the US dollar crashing.
I really don't see it happening. I mean, what would have to happen for the dollar to lose its reserve status? You would have to have the Japanese don't want to use it anymore. The Canadians and the Mexicans don't want to use it anymore. So our North American allies, our South American allies, our European allies. Whenever I see this thing about the dollar losing its reserve status, it's always like, well, Saudi, Iraq and all these other guys, they don't want to use the dollar. Of course not. Of course they don't, because they're at war. They're basically at war with the United States, even though it's not been declared. But Iran is basically at war with the United States, right? Of course they would rather not use the dollar, because the dollar's dominance on the global financial landscape prevents Iran from being able to do any of the awful things they want to do.
Bitcoin gets reserve status.
No.
Smiley face.
If Bitcoin gets reserve status, then you will have, next time you have a recession, the entire economy would implode. If it was based on Bitcoin. Because you would get a situation where the currency collapses in the midst of a recession. Just consider right now the dollar is really, really high. What would happen if in the midst of a strong crisis, the dollar fell? And, we were looking at those numbers. What if the dollar fell to 50? What would that do to markets, right? Deflation. It would be ridiculous. It would be crazy. It would be devastating. Bitcoin would not be suitable as a reserve currency. It's good for transactions. Maybe we can use that blockchain technology and put it into a fiat-backed, state-backed currency. I don't know. But I digress. You get even the Russians. I don't know why the Russians are being so... There was a time when I thought, Russia, they're coming along, and then all of a sudden Putin started doing all this stupid crap. They keep flying bombers towards us.
Sunday
why?
Driver says, I think it will be an unforeseen black swan event. Let's say that a US aircraft carrier gets sunk in the Pacific and the US has to back down from a nuclear threat from China.
Well, how would they back down from a nuclear threat? So let's maybe go out of a scenario. Let's say that okay, so this was something I was thinking about last night. You've been following this stuff going on in North Korea? Holy crap. They basically blew up an embassy. How does that happen? They just casually blow up an embassy? And you know what the South Koreans said? Well, what you said was incredibly rude, but don't do anything. I don't know if they're really that concerned by it yet or not, but it's kind of interesting. But this lady, it sounds like Kim Jong-un.
Sunday Driver says India and China are also skirmishing.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about going through the India and China thing, but you realize that skirmish was basically a bunch of guys with sticks attacking each other, right? They don't use guns. Anyways, so let's say right now Kim Jong-un is ill or out, and his sister, I think it's his sister, is in control right now, and she's talking mean. Okay. Some people say maybe Kim Jong-un, maybe there was a coup and Kim Jong-un is not actually in power anymore. Possible. I don't know. I would pay attention to the way that the South
Uzi
Korean
Knesset says that
government...
skirmish was embarrassing lol. J. Constant says have you seen the God Code? It predicted 911 and also says Korea totally destroyed.
No, I haven't seen that. That sounds like bullshit. Anyways, let's say that that's true and that this girl that's in charge, and man, she just looks like pure evil. Let's say that she decides to go ham. She tries to invade South Korea. Maybe people die, but North Korea gets devastated, and the United States and South Korea occupy North Korea. But before they're done completely putting a hold down, China says, oh, no, no, no. And China comes into North Korea, and there is a battle between
Uzi
China
Knesset
and the
says
United
two
States.
modern superpowers get in a stone throwing competition and like 60 people die because they fell off a mountain? I mean, lol.
Yeah, it's kind of... Well, no, they beat them to death with sticks. Anyways, so what would happen in that kind of a situation? United States and China now fighting over the North Korean territory, and China tries to move in with military hardware, and the United States says, "Oh no, no, no!" Right? Or maybe the United States had already moved in, and then China that sort of a thing. And then would China launch a nuclear missile over something like that? Like that. I guess that could happen, but I don't think that they would. I don't know. That's a sort of a scenario where I would see that sort of a thing. But I'm telling you.
I2 Yanth Great says India will dominate China in a war. F-35 will give China no airspace.
Oh, you think so, huh? Oh, that's an interesting thought. The thing is, it's interesting, this area. You seen this? Let me show you this. This is good. This is good information to know. You got to understand why this land is important.
Uzi Knesset says yo the Indian banter on Chinese propaganda Twitter accounts is amazing lol.
Okay, so here is China, right? This is Asia. Where's my... Still not happy with where the market is. I suppose I could try buying it ahead of the open, but I don't know. So here's China, right? China's basically
Uzi Knesset says Indians are experts in shit talk lol.
Okay, here's Korea.
J.
Right.
Constant says China has a secret weapon program. It can launch 1 million drones with God know what.
Okay. So here's China. This area that they're fighting over, my understanding is this little thing right here. So this is kind of a weird little spot, right? So you think that India ends right there, but it doesn't. They actually have territory that goes up into here.
I2 Yanth Great says the US just recently put an anti-ICBM launcher in South Korea which completely screws over Chinese ICBM capabilities.
Oh, really? So there's
Sunday Driver says
Bangladesh.
point is, would an Indian-China war draw the US into the fray?
So there's kind of a dispute between Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and China. I don't think that Nepal really cares, but
J. Constant says BTC broke resistance now. I am screwed.
did it? Did it just move?
Uzi
Oh,
Knesset says needless to say, despite all the
95.90.
scam calls I get from India, I'm rooting for India, lol.
So this is the little spot that they're complaining about. So why does India care? Well, this area is important. Okay? And this goes way further back than that, right? Tibet should be its own country. Tibet should be its own country. Why did China take it over? Because this is a plateau. This whole thing right here is higher. It's a raised area with increased elevation, And look at all of the little lakes. You see them there? All these little lakes. And you get up into Mongolia, there's stuff too. But okay, all of these lakes. And then when you look at the rivers, I don't know if you can really see them very well, but all of these rivers, so like the Ganges
J.
comes
Constant
down
says
from
China is
in
communist
here.
just like Russia. They always want
They've
more
got
land.
these. They got all this stuff. Where does it all come from? The Tibetan Plateau. So India needs to maintain a way into this plateau, because what happens if China comes in and like, okay, we're gonna dam up this river and just stop? Okay, you right? Then all of these people on the Ganges River are dead, right? Like you have a situation where China could literally turn off the water to millions of
I2
people.
Great says China is cutting off an entire massive river to India and water will be worth more than gold in that area.
Yeah. I don't think
I2 Great says they are doing a hydro plant.
Yeah. Right now they sound like they're being relatively level-headed about it, cuz China builds these dams that they don't completely block it off. It's like it generates hydroelectric
J.
power but
Constant
doesn't
says
completely block
strategist
it off.
locations they want. Russia just took Magaland. You prob did. T hear about it, but it is on the edge of Europe.
So that's why this is important, and that's why India wants to skirmish over it, because they're concerned about this. They're concerned about China wanting this. China really does want like this whole thing. And so they need to maintain this little spot because it's a strategic corridor. They ever need to come in and do something, that's where they need to go through. And so that's why India cares. Ooh, China. They just want everything. Oh, I didn't hear about this thing that you're talking about, that there was a Russian land grab, but I think that the European strategy here is hold Russia
Sunday
back.
Driver says we should annex Hong Kong, just for the lols.
Well, I'm really disappointed by what's going on in Hong Kong. I really thought that if the Western nations really stood up for Hong Kong and early on sent ships over there and said, China, if you do any shit, we will just help the people.
I2 Great says this makes me want to play Civ 6 lol.
It's free now, right? You can get it for free on the Epic's Game Store. Oh man, don't get me started on the Epic's Game Store. You want to hear me rant about the Epic's Game Store?
RJ Wheel says Taiwan next.
Taiwan next. Do you think they're gonna hit? If I believe that if they hit Taiwan, that will be shit hitting the fan. I don't think that the Western powers will allow it. I really don't think that they will just come in and attack Taiwan, and the United States will be like, well, darn. I don't think that they're going to do that.
RJ Wheel says agree. That's a line.
Sunday Driver says China is playing the long game. Western powers are in decline.
J. Constant says what we need is a big virus so humans should learn to work together instead of hungry for more power. They all want to rule the world. Just look at the people who dominate this world, they are psycho.
China does, for sure. China wants to take over the whole world. No question about it. People need to... I'm glad that people are finally awakening to this fact. We all thought, oh, China will be our best friends. No.
RJ Wheel says Tears for Fears.
No. They don't want to be your friend. They want
J. Constant
the whole
says
world
America
to be communism.
also Russia also. I2 Great says they can take Hong Kong but not Taiwan, too much sea power. China will have better subs soon though.
The United States and Taiwan. Here's the thing. I don't think that it would just be like an overnight. Okay, all of a sudden Taiwan is under Chinese control. No, it would be like a slow escalation, and they would start shooting back and forth. And as soon as they start shooting back and forth, the United States would get involved. Unless you elect a dipshit. Like maybe Biden might say, "Oh, it's not worth it," or maybe certain Democrats would shy away from it. But the pretty much all of the foreign policy brokers in the United States, I think, would be saying, no, you cannot allow that to happen. Can you imagine if Taiwan was allowed to fail? There
J.
would.
Constant says I think Europe will be hurt the most soon. The dollar will destroy the euro.
Hmm. Well, I don't know why the euro looks so weak today. The euro is weak today, and seems like something has changed, but it's unclear as of yet what actually changed. UK Prime Minister's Johnson spokesman says we have no plans to abolish the triple lock. We will stand by pensioners. Is he talking about the lockdowns?
J. Constant says we Europe are third leg for a long time and it's getting weaker.
Yeah. Well, the weakness in the euro, it's been a long time coming. I remember when they were like what 1.5 or more. Now they almost got to parity at one point, right? Well, I find this sell
I2 Yanth
off
Great says how will
interesting.
markets be affected if the US makes its own digital stable currency?
I don't think that they would be affected too much. It's, any company that is in charge of digital transactions would get screwed, but sell Square, I guess, or whatever they are. You wouldn't have any need for Visa, MasterCard, those anymore. That would probably be but I don't think that it would change the macro picture very much. It's probably going to happen at some point, right? I mean, China's already kind of doing it. Okay, so maybe Brannigan is listening to me because he's just tweeting something relevant here. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Showing
J.
a
Constant
neat.
says of course everything will be digital in the future. No more
Yeah.
tax evading and pure control. I2 Yanth Great says yes it's guaranteed emo.
Euro USD FX showing a neat divergence to capitalize on. The main driver of the currency has been the ability of the ECB to suppress periphery spreads in Italy, Spain, and Portugal. Given the Bund and BTP spread heading towards 1.6, the euro should test 1.1440, which is actually a little bit higher, before long. So he's saying that it's going to turn back up. That's what he thinks, at least. He also had an interesting trade where he said, "Oh, we should go up to 3160 and then to 3200, and then you can short. You can thank me later." And it's hasn't gone that way. maybe he'll end up looking right in the end, and he'll look like a genius. I think so. Talking about coronavirus numbers.
J. Constant says even your thoughts will not be private in the future, they will know you better than yourself. Yuval Noah Harari is one of the brightest minds of the 21th century.
Oh.
I2 Yanth Great says but what app would control the US digital dollar? And would that app be able to trade BTC, USD?
People would make their own
I2
apps.
Yanth Great says a lot to wonder about.
At that point, though, it would be Google and Apple, and they would all be trying to make their own wallets. They'd want it built into the phone. Well, I do see a good possibility that the E-mini will turn up here, but we got 30 seconds to go till the open, so let's just watch what they do. I don't know. Not so sure that I really want to take a trade 30 seconds before the E-mini open. That, even though I want to buy it, maybe I'm gonna regret saying that. Should I have bought it at 31.27?
Sunday Driver says the internet and smartphones are destroying Western
No.
civilization.
Remember, there's always a plus and minus to everything, and human brains often like to focus on the negative. Okay, first impulse is down. Very much down. Well, they got a little bit too far there. Based on volume, the amount that they sold there is unusual. Nope, nothing like that.
J Constant says I am serious, they can also read your feelings just scanning your facial expressions. If you are upset or stressed, that's only from the outside. I really recommend to look at Yuval Noah Harari.
Really? I'll have to look at that. There's certainly a lot of things that we can do with technology, that's for sure. I mean, their ability to predict people's behaviors over a large population of people, like they might not be able to completely predict what each individual person can do, but they can say, if we do X, then the majority of people will go towards this way is a little scary. Okay.
J Constant says yes, your feelings is data too.
Okay, so I like that turn, but they're already stalling out at 31.24 is interesting to me. And overall, the index seems to be a little bit more subdued than normal. Maybe they get back above the open, and maybe that will excite them a little bit more.
Sunday
Overall,
Driver
the
says the
volume
only
looks
people
long.
safe from that technology are psychopaths who have no feelings or emotions.
Oh, there you go.
They lack any affinity for their fellow human beings.
Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of long volume in here. Let's see if it. This is a much more mixed open than normal. I guess there's still a lot of indecision off of since all of the craziness of yesterday. I actually expected them to be a bit more volatile than they've been so far today. So
I2 Yanth Great says or just use a burner flip phone lol.
you guys are so paranoid. Traders are always the most paranoid type of people. Mm-mm. I try not to worry too much about things that don't really have much control over, though. Some things that are not necessarily good are just kind of gonna happen. Yeah, just have to deal with it. I think that in our society today, we want to put too much emphasis on how the environment is affecting us instead of just taking responsibility for what our own actions are and dealing with whatever the environment brings. I think that was kind of the thing that bothers me about 2008 is that we kind of all treated it like this, oh, it's this awful thing that happened to us and it wasn't our fault. And now we're behind forever instead of saying, well, okay, this bad thing happened, but we can move past it. We just work hard, you know? Okay, come on, get above that open. Nope, not yet. Yeah, there's a little bit of fight from it there at 26. All right. So they're hitting back and forth. I don't. It looks like the algorithms are just kind of trading. I don't really
J.
see.
Constant says I am not paranoid or
Big.
scared but interested in the future and we have some control. But they will make the new generation dependent to this technology until they say enough.
Hmm. I don't know, man. Look at this. It's pretty swingy, really. I guess it's only 3 points that they're going back and forth across, but it's really quite a back and forth here. Okay, that's interesting. Really, I need to pay attention to the E-mini one. Okay, so there's some real buy volume came in there. Somebody's pushing against it though. Oh, look at that. A lot of volume trading there at 31.24. I think he wants to buy it.
J. Constant says Neuralink is also something.
If we weren't in such a volatile environment, I would add another contract on that. I thought that
Sunday
particular
Driver
little
says they
guy
aren't
there was
stupid.
bullish.
They will attach the new technology to human pleasure. Mind-blowing orgasms will be generated via your smartphone. Once that happens, we will never get rid of technology.
Mm. Oh, come on. Push it, push it. No. So it looks to me like somebody really came in and tried to buy the market, but there is a passive seller. And that passive seller it seems to be doing a good job pushing them down. I don't know if yeah, this is kind of interesting. Everything kind of tells me to buy, but it's just not working out. Maybe somebody knows something because they really fought the market there. Okay. Something
J.
happening at
Constant says our stock market
17.
are open now.
Wow, pay attention. What's his name that was in here earlier was criticizing me for not paying attention. Wonder where I get it from. Eric
J.
Hughes. Eric
Constant
Hughes
says
was
Nasdaq
criticizing me.
9,999. J. Constant says ATH.
That doesn't look like I got a good price.
J. Constant says 10,006 now.
The NASDAQ. A lot of you guys really like to look at the NASDAQ number. I never pay attention to where it is. Okay. They look like they're pulling it out again. Doesn't look too good. It was just like a little move up and that was it. Now for lows again. Well, I give up. We're below yesterday's close now.
J Constant says what a bullish markets.
So the internals started positive but have gone negative now.
J Constant says I really think it's unbelievable we totally recovered from COVID looking at stocks. Even higher.
Yeah, right. Who knows? It's probably not over yet. I'm sure that there will be many, many speed bumps along the way.
J Constant says economy down, stocks up.
Well, we're going to try it one more time, I guess. This is probably not a market that. So I'm taking these with my experimental account still. And I'm just kind of thinking about it. I was like, well, it's not a strong news day. Market seems pretty choppy. It's in the summer. Yeah, not a good day to be putting on a lot of risk. Well, let's see what they do. I do see things turning here a little bit. If I get back above here, I think I'll add one. Feeling a little bit more confident about this. Hmm. Ooh. Good click there.
J Constant says what's this
It's a
drill rap,
bit.
man? My 12-year-old son listens to this CRP.
Cool. I think we're in a good position now.
J Constant says very aggressive young boys with machetes bragging about murders, it's very bad.
What? Drill rap? I've never heard of that. Need to take a look at a couple of things here.
Sunday Driver says this stock market move is a total sham. Fed printed money circulating its way through the arteries of finance and finding its way ultimately into stocks. I really hate that this.
Well, I don't know if that's exactly what's happening. I think that it's more so uh, the investors pumping it up. Like the Fed printing money and putting it into debt, that's not really good for the companies in the long run. Like it keeps them from going out of business,
J
yes.
Constant
But
says drill rap, yeah, it's the new hype, it's even worse than normal gangster rap. This is pure psycho. I think I need to talk to my son.
it's a drag long term on the profitability of companies, right? So why is everybody buying it? I think that it's all psychological. They just know that the Federal Reserve isn't going to let the markets go down. So what they're really doing is they're just buying it on because they realize that there's not really any downside risk. They're buying it because they think there's a Fed put out there. Trading Technologies adds 5 Chinese exchanges. That's cool. I need to
Sunday Driver
work
says I
harder on my
think you just
language
said what
learning.
I said.
I think I need to work harder on my language learning. Yeah, we're probably on the same thing. I think that some people think that it's that it's the Federal Reserve's money in and of itself that's pushing the markets up, but it's not. It's your guys' money. We're paying more for things than what they're worth because the retail investors are willing to do it because they think somebody else is going to come along and buy it, and the Fed's not going to let it fall down. So the problem with that is that those valuations, there's a limit, even with the Fed put. So you're just going to end up with a bunch of people in a market that just goes sideways. Okay. That was bad. I paid up way too much for that. Hmm. Okay. Now they take it. I guess we're okay. I think that they'll push through there, but there's enough risk that I wanted to just take my profits there.
Sunday Driver says I don't think it can just go sideways. The Fed is propping up something that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The growth is fake. It can't do this forever. It takes more and more to keep it up.
I mean, we would have to be like well out of the recession, but you're gonna end up in a situation at some point where the economy is growing and things look really, really good, but the stock market doesn't really flow up, right? You'll get the opposite complaint in a year, a year or two from now. They'll be like, everything's great. Like, let's say Joe Biden wins. This is this scenario I see. Joe Biden wins. Stock markets move up anyways. The economy is doing really, really well. And the Democrats are like, why is the stock market not moving up even though the economy is going so well? It's because those evil capitalists don't like Joe Biden. That's what they're
J
going to say.
Constant says yes, but the trend is your friend, and I lost betting against the trend. I2 Yanth Great says the Fed is selling back Munkus.
Rand Squawk retweeting Michael Brown. U.S. equities bearing opening gains. S&P 500 and Dow both in the red, and Ransquawk says, I thought the Fed already made this illegal. It really is like, we really are getting ridiculous with this stuff, aren't we? Polls are underestimating Trump's appeal again, apparently, according to Political. I would be really skeptical about polling at this point. Trump has a point about the polls. Some pollsters are still grappling with the same problems that plagued battleground state surveys 4 years ago. I think that they're probably true. As President Trump tumbles in the polls and falls further behind Joe Biden,
Sunday
his
Driver
campaign
says, I
returned
think
to familiar
capital will find a
frame.
friendly confine. What's likely is that foreign stocks will do better, capital will leave the US markets, and the US market will decline.
You know what? I want to read this story, but I should keep my eyes over here.
Jay Constant says the brother of Floyd is a 33rd degree Mason and Floyd was a bouncer with the cop who killed him.
Really? No. His brother was a Mason? I don't believe you. I don't believe you. That sounds like bullshit. That sounds like conspiracy theory nonsense. Okay, they're making a good buy now. Okay, so there's still a little bit of contention in that 31.25 area where there was before.
Sunday Driver says, I work with a black guy who is a Mason. I have no idea what that means.
It's like a club. It's like a club. But it's like a club for old rich white guys.
I2 Yanth Great says Floyd knew his killer. They worked together as bouncers and Floyd said he was cruel. Bob the Builder says, Seth, you play Unreal on Sim now?
This is a sim order. I'm probably not going to trade it live until the fall. I just don't see a lot of. I mean, the markets are still incredibly volatile, which I don't want to blow a ton when it's too volatile for my account size. But then you get these summer markets that kind of have some odd behavior. So I think that the fall will be a really interesting time to trade too, and I want to save what I have saved up for then. So I'm probably going to do this. And not only that, but I still feel like I'm just kind of getting my feet underneath of me in trading the E-mini, So I don't know.
Jay Constant says yes, they will make conspiracies about everything now. If you start
Right.
digging into that rabbit hole, you eventually believe in lizards and flat earth.
No, you shouldn't say stuff like that, Jay Constant, because then they're going to start talking about the lizards. There really are a bunch of people that think that the lizard people created the coronavirus hoax. It's so weird to me, like, what's going on with coronavirus. Coronavirus is a good example, okay? Like, we should expect that experts will be wrong on things like this because models aren't reliable. Straight up, models models like that just aren't very reliable. And when an expert comes out and says, okay, well, my model says that we're going to have X%, it might be, it's useful information. But in terms of saying, is it actually going to happen or not? I just don't think that models can do that. I think in the future that statisticians and stuff like that will look back
Sunday
on.
Driver says, I do think it's possible that some humans bred with another different race of beings. How else do you explain Rh negative blood types?
Okay, hold on. Anyways, so I think that in the future, people are going to look at some of the models that we have today and think of it like divination. Because I think that a lot of the work that like Nicholas Taleb, for instance, is doing says that a lot of the statistical significance that we read into some studies, it's not. It's just not there. It's just not enough. I really deeply believe this. And especially as it applies to markets. But also, I think as it applies to the coronavirus, they were trying to read this information about, you know, a model when they really don't have complete
J.
inputs.
Constant says 10% of humans is relative of Neanderthals.
If you think that the death rate for it is like 1%, and it really ends up being 0.5%, guess what? Your model's going to be wrong. And what were all of the models using in the beginning? So you should expect that the experts would be wrong on this, right? So everybody says it's a conspiracy theory. No, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's it's exactly what you should expect to happen. Well. Let's take that off. I should have reacted to that a little bit faster. But do you think that I can buy it down here again?
J. Constant says over 100k COVID deaths in the USA now.
Ooh, that one was a good catch. He wants to push it still.
Sunday Driver says I am Rh negative and have more Neanderthal DNA than 99% of humans. According to
Really?
23andMe, I am different than everyone else. I know this.
What are some like physical traits that you would consider to be more Neanderthal? Heavy eyebrow, heavy forehead, like what is it? What does it look like? Well, now we have to think about what does Sunday Driver look like? The I think the live squawks. That should go lower. I don't. Why am I not clicking?
J. Constant says I still hear Trump say it's just a flu. At Sunday Driver, are you royal? Do you have blue bloods?
If this fails to go lower here, then I think that it could whip.
I
back
too
to the
Yanth
chart,
Great says
but-
Neanderthal are more bipolar. I heard it in study once.
Oh, really? Well, they're waiting for me to get back in, but I need to wait for a better signal to that it's flipped for me to get back in. But I think that oh well, it's okay. Except for that last one, then put me back down. Okay, so there's that low. That's gonna make things look pretty bad, especially 3106. Well, there's some volume going through right here at 08. That might be it right there, to be honest.
J. Constant says should I buy the BTC dip? It's 9,440 now.
Is it really? Oh yeah, no, it's not bad. I don't know. I mean, there's still support down to 94.25. So they haven't really fallen out yet. And one of the things that they like to do is they'll go a little bit lower to make everybody think that they're going to puke and then they buy it. Okay, like this right here. Come on. Good. Very good. Zero Hedge story retail day trading euphoria has finally peaked. Here comes the sellers. Okay, we'll see. Okay, that's good. That erases that last one.
J Constant says I think 10,000 is some psychological support and resistance for the Nasdaq. It hovers around it.
Yeah, those big numbers always end up being. What was it? One of um, Jesse Livermore's rules was anytime that an index or a stock hits one of those big numbers like that for the first time, it always tends to go a little bit further. Especially an index.
Sunday Driver says I have great intuition, and my body is shaped differently. I have a large head. I'm a hermit, and I like living in high places. My family history comes almost entirely from London, UK.
What's your eye color and hair color and stuff? Like I'm thinking more like physical traits, like, do you tend to like I have a larger femur than average, but larger eyes than average. My eyes are really buggy. And my hair, you can't really tell, but my hair is almost ash colored. Scott Adams is on one today.
I2 Yanth Great says I heard chimps can remember like 20 numbers in a row and humans only like 10 average. J Constant says I am from the Netherlands and was in England a while ago. I found that English people are shorter than the Dutch. They looked a bit like hobbits with lots of tattoos.
Shorter than the Dutch. Yeah, humans short-term memory is very, very poor. But you know what? Memory overall is a really interesting thing. People, I don't know what the deal is with that one, but
Sunday Driver says my hips are broad and strong. I am naturally quite strong, with great hand strength. My eyes are green. Hair was blonde as a child and
okay.
turned dark as an adult.
Well, that's pretty typical white guy. I mean, that's me. I was bright blonde and then it turned to ash. Hmm. I think we could go for that open again. Why not? Little concerned still though. Like, you're not getting very good tick readings here. Yeah. Like, they were only able to make it to a tick reading of like almost a little over 400 before they started turning. And we got an outside bar. And we're kind of down.
Sunday Driver says human memory is being eroded due to computers and smartphones. We used to have to remember everything. I used to be able to recall hundreds of phone numbers. Now, I can't remember my own.
No, human short-term memory is our memory is really bad, but we don't seem to realize how poor it is.
J Constant says I am very blonde still at my 40 and very athletic. My profile looks Greek like the statues.
We like to think that our perception of reality is based on our memory, but our memory is just an
J
abstraction.
Constant says, but getting bold now.
And so
I2
you
Great
can
says, what the fact
remember
that all the
false
people work
things.
freak memory are more likely to be on the spectrum and thus have poor social success in life, but the ones with worst short-term memory become president?
Is that what it is? I think that the president just has very poor impulse control. I think that that's the best explanation for most of the idiosyncrasies in his behavior that people complain about. So we're building a little bit of a base around 3110. That's not. As I'm doing this, I'm kind of realizing how poor of a market it really is. Like, all right, I'll try it.
J Constant says, I don't even start what I think of Trump, but it's not good at all. I also think that after the election everything will plummet.
Well, that could be. The market. So here's something else that I see happening in this market. I think that one of the things is that everybody remembers what happened in the QE era, and so now that they see the Federal Reserve doing stuff again, they're like, "Oh well, I definitely gotta get in on that." And maybe perhaps we're pushing it up too high because of that. I think that they're doing the same thing with the election. Like, because the markets reacted so strongly to the election last time around, they're like really, really worried about it this time. Which I don't really feel is necessary, but that's what's happening. I just don't think that the things. Well, of course, if the Democrats had an absolute rout, then it would matter, and the markets would have every reason to sell off. But um, overall, I don't think that they're going to change the U.S. tax policy changes that Donald Trump made because it's been so
J
successful.
Constant says this world is built on fear and greed. I2 Great says, yeah, I saw that trend too. I think a lot of laymen see it.
Mm-hmm. I bet you that if Joe Biden won, that the market would sell off, but that sell off might be short or temporary because you really think that the corporations are going to let them change the tax rules back to what they were? Hell no. But the United States at such a competitive disadvantage, and there's so much evidence to show that it was effective, that there's no way they're going to be able to change it. Okay. Well, I think that my first position was a little better. Yeah, only by a point. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. Especially since this still
I2 Great
good
says, I think we
possibility of a
switched to
strong run up.
MMT, but I'm a dumbass, so what do I know?
Nah, not with
J
Biden.
Constant says, I bought 50 silver 1-ounce Eagles.
I mean, the thing is the fissures in MMT are already showing, right? More and more economists are coming around to the idea that perpetually low interest rates is deflationary. And that it puts a huge wrench in the whole MMT. Doesn't
Sunday Driver says smart buying physical.
J Constant says they are beautiful, finally something psychical.
So what's going to happen is very soon you're going to start seeing the what is the word? The bargaining, I guess, from the MMT guys. Because basically a key part of their theory was wrong. So they're going to have to change that theory, and they're going to pretend like that they weren't wrong and that they didn't change anything. Because that's what people tend to do when their theory is wrong, right? Like when we say, "Oh, it's going to go long," and then it doesn't do it, and then we say, "Well, maybe I was just too early." This is frustrating.
J Constant says lol physical. Thanks Seth, I need to go.
Hey, thank you for sitting and chatting as much today, Jay Constant. I enjoyed it.
Sunday driver says I have a Zoom to attend. Later.
Later. I would really like to add more risk there at that spot because I feel like that was a good buy location, but I just don't think with how I've been doing this morning and everything else that adding risk is really appropriate here. So let's just let it go up. This ends up being a big hammer. If they can keep it green here, that would be oh yeah. That ends up being a really bullish looking candle. And now if they get above 19, which looks very likely, but that it seems to be where the sellers care about at the moment. Mm-mm-mm. Mm. Okay. Treasuries seem to be moving around a lot over here. The level 2. So it wouldn't be a bad spot to sell at 18. I think that you could get filled. Of course. The mini may fail here, so let's acknowledge the risks.
I2 Yanth Great says what do you think of UBI? Do you think it will never happen because the Dems will always rather increase min wage instead?
Yeah, I don't think that it will ever happen. Um, I think even in the Democrat Party that's considered crazy. Uh, we kind of here in this economy right here because we gave everybody a check. You kind of have a good example that they're going to derive a lot of data from. But I think that what you're going to find is that it didn't that the checks just kind of prevented the economy from falling out, but that it didn't really stimulate people buying. And so the supposed economic benefits of UBI will never materialize. It'll just increase people's costs. And then you have to deal with the monetary side of it, how it affects the monetary side of it. And like I said, the monetary side of it is trending the other way. People are realizing that the large deficit and the low interest rate for a long time is a really negative thing for your country because you get slow growth over a long time period. And then you have to deal with, countries like China And then what is you gonna do? You know what I mean? Well, the sellers are really want to push it down, but the buyers keep holding it around this 311175 area. That's another like apparent failure on the seller's part. I'm not sure if we can call the one on the upside. Well, I thought that they were a little bit too tepid about taking one a 3119. I'm not sure that I would call that one a failure because they didn't really try. But am I just bargaining there? I don't know. I guess on the downside, they didn't really try either, did they? The buyers just picked it up too quickly. Hmm. I was just reading this thread that Scott Adams posted, and one of the things that he said was that you're not seeing any statistical experts come out on television talking about police brutality or violence statistics at all. And he claims the reason is because it would be so bad for them. I think he might be right. I'm always one of the heuristics that I use in politics that I find really effective. Remember this one, all right? People always use the argument that they think is strongest first. So if the first argument that they use is just an emotional one, you know, or the first argument that they use is one that's really flawed and easy to take apart and and is well known that it's flawed, then you really got to think like they must not be very confident in their own case. Okay, so they did break 19 that time. That's it overall. Pretty dull market still. I don't want to get caught in a kind of move like yesterday, so I'm going to try and trail this up quite a bit. Okay. So a little bit of selling at 21. Damn it. Well,
Bob the Builder says OMG. Bob the Builder says
can't
slightly
handle the
smiling
data.
face.
They can't handle the data. Is it going to hold? Is my stop going to hold? Well, I think I learned my lesson from yesterday, so good for me, right? Oh, fuck. That's got to be COVID numbers. Like, that's wild shit. Texas virus numbers surged by over 11% in last 24 hours, according to health official. That sounds like another one of those they screwed the number up because if it was 11%, then holy fuck. Man, that one was close your eyes and click sell. Holy shit. I don't. You know what? If I put that one on live, I almost wonder if Amp would have put it in. I almost wonder. Amp's been doing shit like that lately. Come on. Well, if this low side momentum really keeps up, the low of the day is 30.96. Man. Okay, so kudos to Futures Trader 71, who was the first person to post the news. Thank you. He must have heard it on the squawk and decided to give it to us all because he didn't see everybody else on Twitter doing it. So now we have to wonder to ourselves, how big of a deal is that? I don't know. That's a pretty deep pullback. We've got a pretty awful liquidity vacuum. There's lots of little targets down there at 3,100. %11% in 24 hours. How is that really doable? Can that really happen? Like, we're talking about the overall number growth rate. Okay. Treasuries took a pretty good jump up there too, and the volume is all along in the 10-year. Oh, and the 5-year jumped. The 5-year really jumped. My oh my. I bet you that somebody was hedging themselves and it was probably like, oh, could have gotten way. He looks, I didn't really see. I wish that I could, we'll have to go back and watch the video, but oh no, you know what I think we can do? We can do the volume profile for it. Right. ZN, duplicate a new tab, and just do it. ZF. Yep. Good 20K done at 14.5. Okay, so now they're turning back down. 11% in a day. Are they going to reimpose restrictions? If it can increase 11% in a day, I don't know, man. I wonder if that 11% is going to be. I don't know, man. That 11% is probably not 11%, but it's probably still bad. And then we get the Florida numbers in 3 minutes. Hmm. Didn't really get the best spot either. That's the thing that's annoying. What did I end up getting? What did it take me out at? 15? Oh, it took me out where my stop was. Should have moved my stop up even more aggressively than that. Oh well. It's pretty churny since then though. Like it's not. Yesterday, once that dropped out, it was like total chaos the rest of the day. And right now they're really kind of feel like they've gone back to a higher end of activity from what it was before the news event. It's still fairly casual. It was quite a move. It's pretty swingy too. They're all pulling over 10 handles or so. Well, they're doing about 5 handles a minute. So I guess the velocity is not as crazy as I would expect, but the range is pretty good. Okay, so here comes 8:30. Also, we're going to get the oil report. So let's bring this up over here to see how oil reacts to this. People are selling into it. Somebody's sitting down there and holding it. 3101. Okay. Crude oil stocks change. Ooh, there's a pretty good build there. 1.215 versus 0.5 for crude oil stocks change. Cushing negative 2.608. Distillate negative 1.358 million versus expected 2.65 million. So I don't know how to read all of that. I'm not really. It looks like oil is actually moving up a little bit. Okay, now I'm waiting for Florida. Hmm. Okay, negative 3.3% versus a 7-day average of 2.5%. So higher than it's been. The market seems to be okay with it, though. I don't know. Hmm. Well, the 5 year came back to the 14.75. Could take 04. Hmm. Yeah, I'm seeing a decent number of contracts going back and forth here on the EMA. Let me reset and see what's really going on here. Looks like they're clearing prices pretty easily. Well, should have taken that 04 when I said it, huh? Jeez, I don't like what just happened there. You get some choppier, so that can totally be something where like they're just trying to squeeze people out before going lower. I don't know. I don't know if I really want to take any trades right now. I don't really feel super convicted on either side on this, so maybe it's better for me to just stay out. I should have taken one. That was almost to 50 at one point, I think. Yeah, I really should have just been way more eager to take profits today. It's really the problem. When it's moving that strongly, like when it bounced off of the down here, that's when I should have been thinking, okay, yeah, they can go lower, but I should be taking off. So those big bears that bought lows added longs last Thursday. Nick's gonna tell how they sold everything every an hour ago, says the market here. Oh, good observation. The 6J didn't really move. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said 260 workers at the Orlando International Airport have tested positive for the coronavirus after nearly 500 employees were. Whoa. So 50% of them? This thing is crazy contagious, guys. It's going to be everywhere. Yeah, the way that it's trading through right here, I really could have held that and gotten a better exit and gotten the 04 in the end. But I don't think that this is action that's favorable for me. I'm happy that I took the sell, but I wish that I had been able to manage a better exit. And be looking here. I think that in action like that, I need to be. I want to take it fast. So I think I get this tendency to think, oh, it's just going to go forever. And those really do have a little bit of a mean reversion bit because of the liquidity vacuums that trades like that create. This chart down here, I've got some yellow on it, and I want to change that color. Figure out what it should be. Oh, that's not it. Where's the older one? Oh, this one will work. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There we go. That's a little better. Now we get a nice bright neon green. No. US is still in first wave. I don't, how do you define what is a first wave and a second wave? All of this wrangling over that term seems really silly. see, it picked exactly the wrong spot. Really? Did you see that one? The hell? Come play that game with me? Yes, it is. Mm-mm. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get more out of that. Yeah, well, I didn't expect to do well today, so good thing I put it in that count. Because that says that I never would have traded it live. There may still be opportunity here. I don't know. Like, should it really be short? That's what's happening in Texas. What do you think is happening in Beijing?
Ask Our Money Machine says, hi Seth, what is your favorite chart patterns?
I don't like chart patterns. That chart pattern where you think it's going to do something and then it doesn't do it. That's my favorite one. Well, they want to recover this thing. I don't know. Where are we at in Delta? Come on, where are you? I don't know.
I2 Yanth Great says, do you like VWAP? That's my main thing.
Yeah, I think that VWAP is a
Ask Our
really
Money
good thing to
Machine
look
says,
at.
who is your favorite trader or investor?
Oh, I don't know. Myself? No, it's not myself. I don't think of it that way. There's lots of people that I like. Anybody that's not an asshole, really. I don't know. There's not a lot of upside resistance, is there?
Ask Our Money Machine says, what about Jim Simons? He was down 20%.
I don't know much about him. Why are you asking that question?
Ask Our Money Machine says asking because he using algo trading most biggest quant on Wall Street.
Hmm. I don't know, but like my opinion is that to really do quantitative analysis that would really be useful to us, we would probably require more than resources than just me programming all the time. Because you got to realize these guys can backtest trillions of strategies a night, and they have access to much better quality data on a historical basis in terms of like numbers and news events. So not really sure how you could beat them at that game.
Ask Our Money Machine says that's true, they sharks.
Well, I did it again. Interesting. Very interesting. Wait, what am I? Why? I didn't mean to click. I need to go flat. Okay. Not the best entry. They seem intent on holding this, guys. Tried that one a couple of times now. It's just not working. But I guess I don't really have like I said, I don't really have a really good strong fundamental feel on this. And when I look at some of these things like the volume profile and stuff, you know, we're kind of in it. I don't know. I think 96 would be a good spot. We kind of touched that though, right? So I don't know what to make of it. We just kind of do the best that we can and acknowledge that it's not a positive market for us, and just see what we can pull. Coming next on June pension rebalancing. As of the close of Tuesday, the desk's theoretical model estimates that a net 76 billion of equities to sell, the third largest estimate on record, behind March 20 and December 18. Okay. Lighthizer says U.S. has excellent deal with China. It's a pretty strong buy candle. No. Was a good try. It's not cooperating very much today. The treasuries are coming back down. The treasuries are coming back down significantly, in fact. UK new virus cases 1,115 versus 1,279, so slightly less. Oh, Florida test case positivity was 10.3 versus 7.4. Okay.
Ace Trades says room closed. What did I miss?
Well, I took that short, but I wasn't able to get a good profit spots on them, even trailing my stops and everything. I've had a difficult day, but I kind of expected today to be hard, so I have like two sim accounts and I've been switching between them, and I'm on the experimental sim account because this is a day that I don't expect to do well. So I don't know. The pullback here, I mean, I think that the action here is really a little interesting because yesterday there was a big fall on coronavirus cases, and then today they're not able to hold the regular session open, and then we have another fall on coronavirus cases, but it's like ever since then they're just not able to hold the thing. Well, you see where everything is just not cooperating today. I'm also turning into this, like, flakiness, I think, because I can't seem to get one to immediately be in my favor. Well, 2 ticks is good. Where did I move my? Oh crap! Sometimes it dies. It goes away. I hope I didn't close it. Jeez. Okay. I actually saved the settings. Well, they're gonna hit into 3113 this time. My wife has left the baby monitor downstairs on, and I can hear the baby crying from that. I might think it's bothering me. I'll fix that. Go. Funny, the baby monitor is louder than the actual baby up in the room. So that 10-minute moving average is really holding it. Did we just lose our requests? Yeah, we did. Yeah. Oh, he says sorry, bro. Nah, it's fine. No, it's fine. It's good. It means that we understood when we were going to do well and when we weren't, and do we predict it correctly? So it's good, I guess. And you know what? Oh, and doing badly. Well, now I'm sizing up and tilting it, but we didn't do too bad. So in the end, at the point at which I should be stopping, it was only about minus $10. So that moving average, that long moving average, is like really being tough. If they get through it, okay, so now they've finally gotten through it. They maybe need to go another step further, like 3113, then maybe we actually get like a real trend change down. Get your son and show him. I think he's nursing now. I think if you really want to see him, you have to come. Oh wait, she's coming downstairs. Oh, she needs milk. He's apparently the boobs were not enough for him. That's the problem. Yeah, if you want to see him, you have to come up here. we're building a chicken coop on Saturday. Now don't come and help. You don't want to help with that. That'll be no. Okay, I'm liking this a little bit better. So down here at 3110, maybe chicken coop away. I'd help, but Corona. Yeah. Well, did you hear the 11% increase in Texas? That's That sounds like probably not true. Yeah, it's not a second wave or so. How so? Sorry. What defines if it's a first wave or a second wave? I don't understand. Was like there was a drop in overall cases and now there's an increase in cases. Isn't that another wave? It's kind of, I don't know. It kind of sounds like a lot of haggling over like, you know, it's like if I was to come in here and I was like, oh, this is a second, this is not a second wave. I don't know, who cares? It's going up or it's going down. No clue. I'll let the experts tell me. Okay. Yeah. I don't you just watch it though. It's interesting to watch the media haggle over whether it's a first wave or a second wave. I think that what the reason that they're doing this is because the second wave is in the fall, right? I don't know, man. That increase in Texas though is like, ooh, this thing is crazy contagious. If you're not taking precautions, then it just takes over. What we are starting to see now is what we saw in the early days of the virus. When Europe got it first, the US outperformed. Now, US cases are rising. We should see Europe outperform. I'm sure the guys at the market here have a post on this. Is 11% the biggest number that fear mongers could find? I don't know. If it was me, just me, I would probably bring it on. No, yeah, you're right. Your wife is, yeah. Yeah. So I read this thing the other day that said that 20% of the population of the world has a condition that makes them extremely susceptible to to having a severe case. See, they continue to play with me. It's like exactly the spots that I'm looking for. They're finagling around and they're not filling me. And I would have thought after the craziness that we've seen that getting filled would be usually tends to be easy, and that's not what's happening. Bankrupt Hertz stock soars after SEC has quote unquote issues with worthless share offering. Freaking Hertz thing never ends, dude. That's so funny. We fully expect everybody to lose money from this share offering. Well, then we're not going to let you do it. That's funny. Atlanta Fed GDP now revised to negative 45.5 from negative 45.4. I love how they are blaming all the stock market on the retail trader. Well, oh man, now what? What was that? I don't know if that was some news, but that was a really weird move. They seem to run into some hard offer side resistance up there. I don't know what's gonna do. So I've been looking into the numbers a lot because there's somebody was arguing with me on Twitter saying, well, it's not the retail traders, they're just an excuse. And I'm like, well, how do you know? And he was like, well, how do you know? And so I found a few things for him, but there's been some more stuff since then. It's very clear that retail is a large part of it. It's probably not all of it, but retail is definitely participating more than they have. So I kind of wonder, why do people want to minimize the impact that they're having? It's definitely a major factor. What you get, but still the market makers and the big boys are doing their thing. Now, see, here's why I think it is. The theory that most day traders try to run off of is I can use technical analysis to determine what the big boys are doing and follow them. Ergo. Okay. But I think that there's some fundamental flaws with that theory. For one thing, you don't want to be the crowd. You want to be, if you're going to take a trade, you want to take it and be early before everybody else figures it out. Right? So, but I think that's kind of why we act this way. Is, well, like, if all of the sudden it's the crowd that's moving the market and not the big boys, then there's a fundamental issue with the way that most people try to trade and with the way that technical analysis works. But that's where I say that, the way that we try to trade technical analysis is wrong. The reason that technical analysis is useful is because it allows you to do things from statistics so that you can get a good price and you have a better probability of it going in your favor. But it's not what moves the market. What moves the market is the market as a whole coming, feeling one way or another about certain things that are happening. And if you can interpret what's going on and conclude which way the market is going to go first before everybody else can, then that's where your edge can come from. That's the way that I try and do it. I think that's why. That makes sense. The retail traders have absolutely been a major contributing factor to but it's not just them. There's a lot of big guys buying it too. And obviously, I mean, they're all doing it because of the Fed, right? So. Okay, well, we're building an okay range here. It does, I agree. Robinhood is a factor, yeah. Not only just Robinhood being a factor, but all those guys out there playing options too is causing a lot of trouble. I think that there are some bigger guys that tend to hedge with options and stuff that are maybe having a little bit more difficult of a time because of that. Like the theta people. Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau government to present fiscal and economic snapshot on July 8th. Okay. Is that a normal thing that they do? So this is just going sideways now ever since there was that, like, what the heck moment at 31.15. And I still don't know what caused it. Shoot. What was that? That was highly unusual. That was maybe my data feed being slowed down or something. What the hell was that? U.S. will not compromise on fair access for U.S. agricultural products in negotiations with EU or Britain. No access, no trade deals. It's something weird going on here for sure. This is a weird action. Ever since I put my take profit back there. Okay. So there's this moving average is still they're still hugging really tightly. I did push a little bit through it though. Okay. Well, now that last little run they went pretty easily. Yeah, there other guys are seeing them too, where it'll spike up 4 points and then come right back down. They still don't want to touch 31.10 though. They literally one tick away from it. Is that right? I should clear this down so that I can see next time. Now discussing selfish sanitation standards, says Anna Swanson, in the glamorous world of trade negotiations. Is that really the sort of stuff they have to talk about? Hey, hey, I like that one. Well, look at that. There it is again. Oh, they're fighting. We're getting weird tick readings. We are, in fact, getting very weird tick readings. Fed's Paycheck Protection Program gave a tiny New Jersey bank $5.3 billion, 9% of all of the money it's spent thus far. The hell? It's a lot. I think when all of this is said and done, you're going to go back and you're going to find out that some companies, it was really quite scary how bad it was. And we didn't know. Don't trade and drink. Yeah. So I need to look at my volume profile now. That is a lot at 31.15. And all of this is still just a pretty trivial pullback from the massive downturn. Lighthizer says U.S. made very little headway with EU on trade. They are waiting on Biden. The EU is waiting on Biden. Probably. Hey, good sell. I think that whoever it was that was buying through all that probably just finally gave up. Bob says I trade sim. I'm telling you, in the summer, even when we're getting good movement like we are now, the summer action is always a little like harder to trade. I don't know how to describe it. It turns out, due to martingaling it here, that I'm coming out okay, but well, I didn't really. I only took 4 contracts. That's the most that I'm willing to size it up to, but I don't want to lose more than like what, $100 in a day. Well, I think at one point I was below that, so I really probably, if I was trading this live, I think I would have taken those first 3 trades and then quit. Hmm. Cool. Do I have any desire to trade live, but don't have enough money? Well, that's okay. You know, I one of the things is futures trading is not suitable for all investors, and one of the things is you really do have to have a decent chunk of capital that you're willing to just throw away. And if you don't have that chunk of capital, I really think that the wise thing is to just trade a sim. As long as the fills that you're getting are, somewhat, you know, don't trade the CQG rhythmic sim. That thing effing lies. But trade it, get confident in the way that you trade. So, the whole mental aspect of it isn't going to matter if you don't have a solid strategy anyways. Can you save $100 a month? Well, there you go. That's how you got to do it. Well, it's still kind of fading there. How much further? Okay, so the next step is around 3106. When they moved up, it seemed like they were just bouncing off of that and it was like really consistent. But now they're moving down and it's so much uglier. Oh, what's this? Jennifer Jacobs, Kellyanne Conway says Trump campaign never did a single poll when she was campaign managers because she sees them as a colossal waste of money. She says in swing states, main thing she sees is Biden and Trump in relatively close proximity to each other under 50%. Really? Well, maybe it was that they never did their own poll. They certainly look at polls, right? And they've got to have numbers, people. So seeing some trade going through at 3107 again. Sunday driver, I'm back. Did the world end? No. You know what though? Has been some interesting action. I mean, there was that crazy down move, and the pullback was pretty insistent, and now the floor is just like falling out again. Russian bomber formations were entering Alaskan air defense zone, of course. Every day now, isn't it? Another little step lower. And there's that pivot. Taken out. Next one is at 3102. 3102.75, I believe, is the start of the, yeah, it was start of the hour. So 3102.75, below that, we're negative. But that makes today, or rather, that makes this hour a shooting star, doesn't it? Do I have an hourly chart? I don't even have an hourly chart. I should add one. Yes. 60-minute bars. And then I need to change the trading hours to be this index futures quant edge setup so that they go at 30 minutes. Well, I'm looking at it here. Dang it. I could take it there too. Because we're at all coming up to 9:30. I think we could get lower. Cool. But not in the next 3 minutes, right? So we'll shut it down here in a second. How you guys doing? Did I miss anything? We're all vaporized and now we're in trading. Hell. Yeah, Ace can give you good signals. I really want to know how he picks them. So, it's like this. Wait, let's see if I can show you guys. So, like right here is like a really great example. Like, okay, here's a spot where you could have gone short and work. Could have gone short and work. And then you get this one, and then it worked. But then they had this whole thing, which was just like, come freaking on. Are you kidding me? It just wouldn't go. And then it finally went. Wait. A video just came out of Joe Biden saying that Confederates are quote unquote very fine people. What the hell? You can't. That can't be. That can't be right. Oh, we're back. You know what? I don't know what happened there. It crashed. It crashed hard. OBS crashed. That's never happened before. Has that happened before? I don't think that's ever happened to me before. You can see me now, though, right? Yeah, no, we're fine. Said that they copied it to the clipboard. All right. That's not terribly useful because it's a stack trace. libx264. Oh, what? The encoder crashed? What? Oh, the addresses and shit that I don't really give a fuck about. What the heck? Okay. Well, nah, that's not helpful. Anyways, we were talking about that trade was good. Now here you're getting like, oh, maybe it's going to turn, but this is probably it's one that goes down and goes lower, but it might flip. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, it was frustrating. Hasn't been incredibly reliable movement today. But hey, because I took 4 contracts on that last one, it did end up being profitable overall today. I don't think some of these, like these ones, this one right here shouldn't have been. So that one was bad. And that one was bad too, but I got out of that one quickly. So I think we're okay. Like the question is, I'm not like revenge trading, am I? Well, that was certainly a bad run there. But that's really trading against the trend. So we can work on that. That seems to be one of my problems lately is I actually do have an okay feel. And I do pretty good when they go my way, but I'm did too early on a lot of these and the momentum really isn't in my favor. Maybe I should have been looking at my adaptive CCI here. Why is that colored like that? Let's fix that. Adaptive CCI and make where's the background color? I don't want the background color to be red. Color the background. No, that's not the right one. I think it's moving average rising is the one that I want. Yes, green, red. And even this downturn has been a little, how do you say, sketchy? Where does it get the background color from? Oh. Wait, what? Wonder if I have a better version of the CCI. I do. That's better. Opacity really, really light. And the background criteria should be moving average rising. I think. Well, I have a couple of them here. Yeah, it's really choppy either way. Okay. I think that will help me a little bit. So, have you been going into work at all? I've been working home this whole time. So we have a meeting at 9:45. So that's like my hard cutoff. I usually shut it around 9:30. I pulled back. I got a good exit there. Would have been bad to have held through that, especially look at the bonds coming back down. The bonds move around very easily. I need to figure out. You give me some ideas. Not today. No, think about it another time. Ideas for the background, because I moved my son. He was too loud. Oh my gosh, it's so much easier to work during the day. He's gone. But moved him downstairs. Got that all squared away. So now we can put stuff behind me. I'm thinking we could put maybe a bookshelf and like a chair, a reading chair, maybe. I don't know. Still thinking about it. Anyways, I think it's time for me to go. So how are you? I do not miss the commute. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make it like I should put like a trillion monitors behind me or something. No. No. No, 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 no. We're done. We're done. We're done. Oh man, or the Barstool Sports guy. We could get a big picture of the Barstool Sports guy. He kind of annoys me. Oh man. Oh, you just wanted to see me laugh. Okay, I really am gonna go now. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Stay profitable, friends.